you have the floor. Well, hello again. Those who participated in the workshop at Thomas-Krenn will probably hear me repeat myself a bit. I was asked to be brief, and I will be. My name is Mark Hof, Key Account Manager for North Germany, working with Thomas-Krenn.AG for 2.25 years. I've given you a few figures. I won't go through them all. The only message I would like to give you is the bottom honeycomb. Since 2022, we have been cooperating with a sister company, extending our portfolio from server and industrial PC manufacturer to client provider. We have client notebooks, rock devices, and industrial PCs. The number of staff has nearly doubled. The two companies are pretty much the same size. They are kept by the same investor, so they're like sister companies. That's what we could call them. I would also like to tell you what kinds of things we do outside of the web shop, the standards that we know from the Big Five. This Swiss Army knife that I am showing here, I didn't find a smaller one, is to represent the standard portfolio of Thomas-Krenn. Everything that you can sew in the honeycombs is done by system engineering. They are responsible for miracles. I call them rainmakers because the headline says, let's be realistic, let's try the impossible. If you have anything that you believe it's impossible to achieve, please contact us, talk to us, and let's see if we can't make it happen after all. And last but not least, to make sure that I'm brief, this is our team from north to south, direct sales. We have people in north and south, Lüneburg, north of Freyung, and Thomas-Krenn in Freyung. That's in Bavaria. The two people in the back office support Tom and myself, so they make sure that the systems get into the server and that you can actually use the system. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague Martin Schubert. Well, thank you very much. Welcome. We'd like to speak about the transformation of a company from a classical internal workplace to a cloud-first approach. We're talking of a company in Berlin with great internal processes and implementations, 98 staff members, 20 units, many events per year. We are coming from, well, the objective is that staff can use a private cloud-first approach with a central portal where all relevant applications are available, and so far that used to be a classical internal workplace. The problem here was to map the processes that were used internally. The core components are the Nextcloud as cloud storage, Simrock as a groupware system, Open Exchange would be possible as well, and other special applications. An application that we couldn't reflect was the testware. We are talking of about 1,000 square meters and 1,000 devices where the night manager has to go to the shop and he didn't know which devices are in use, which ones are broken, and this is made available centrally now. One of the core company, the core components are OpenSense, and then classically VLAN site-to-site VPN and VPN tunnel for critical access, Promox hypervisor on a simple machine with a low frequency, because Linux works well enough. You don't need high frequencies. what really was made things easier was Promox backup server integration for block-based backup. And it's a big stress on hard drives to back up gigabytes of data every night. We could reduce that with a Promox server and then use this portal server as a central approach to make the server available via a browser window to users. Well, unfortunately, we loaded the wrong presentation now. Let me continue. Well, so we have the firewall hardware, and you can build a firewall system with just €1,000. How long would it take to reboot this? Because that's the workshop we held earlier. Is there someone who could help us?
Danke.
We're on our way already. Well, let me tell you something about my favorite topic from our systems engineering department, which actually is capable of building things for us that you can't buy off the shelf. One example being a customer of ours, and because they're a bit playful, they wanted them to light up in a color indicating what they do. White was server, blue was security, etc., etc. And they were able that we could do that for small money and in a short time. But what did they do? They built the, they reconfigured the servers physically, installing some LEDs, and that was possible to do quite easy, but you can't get it everywhere. It's a different story if you buy 8,000 servers at a time, then it would be more difficult. Another example is a coffee manufacturing and sales company wanted to have electronic price tags. The electronic price tags get their prices from the cloud. Per rack, we have one server, and this server provides the data to the electronic price tags. That was one effort that we had to make devices that weren't available with LEDs, water resistant, etc., etc., because they were calculating in the in a shopping mall and didn't have technical support 24/7. So, right. One of the CEOs of Schwutz, I can quote them. The next step in a modern working environment, guided by the user's interests, is what we need to do. Why do we do that? Well, to enable remote working. The lockdown in this company also led to some problems, so that they had to have teams that had to go to the office, and then the cloud-first approach was indispensable. It's helpful to communicate the core requirements securely, and that is done via a direct connection of the provider. Another advantage is that data minimization by splitting them up instead of sending them by mail. As an agency, you always have to share large data volumes with other companies, and that led to numerous mails with gigabytes of data with updates and new versions, and that can be avoided with this breakdown into smaller packages. Well, then terms and conditions. With the school, we had to deal with the terms and conditions. And it takes a while to understand these terms and conditions. You can build the platform faster than it takes you to understand the terms and conditions. And there were data protection officers who warn against the use of Microsoft products because they have terms and conditions that are so lengthy and change so fast that we can't keep up with them. We don't have the capacities to do so. Well, we come from a classical work environment, no Windows desktop, but a Unix desktop connected to a directory via SAM4 with network drives, Linux roaming profiles and printers. But that was already a cool platform, internally speaking. Now we extended that with a central portal in order to give the staff some support for remote working and to make processes available. The core components are OpenSense firewall, VLAN, we mentioned those before. And the UCS is very helpful here because it offers a great toolkit for not only single server solutions, but also primary, secondary, distributed environments can be very well built that way, and services can be distributed. You can use different container engines. And for us, it was very helpful that the classical domain controller could be used in order to cover the old environment with core components such as Active Directory, DHCP, DNS, and the portal server with LDAP, SAML, and OpenID. We will have to move towards OpenID. We have mostly LDAP right now. And Summarize, for instance, that wasn't implemented with open apps because they're not available. So we thought long and hard, and for us, we came up with a little standard in order to be able to use manufacturer-supported interfaces to container images and Debian GNU Linux stable with NFTables firewall and Podman as container long-term environment. So we hope that everything is included here, and it gives us a few years of peace, at least 6 cloud deployment, and this would be possible with a Terraform provider. And after the cloud init, we go to a VM and install this installation. And we had to take our time to play this, to write this playbook, which can take a while. We opted for Podman. Docker would have been another possibility, but we opted against Docker because it's all so far. You don't need configuration files, no special things, and you can cover it all with Ansel and the modules. So this would be an open source implementation of Bitwarden. So that's a password manager. Well, that takes us to the end of our presentation, and we'd like to thank you very warmly.
Thank you.